Hey, LaKeena, you know what Pat Riley wants? He wants a
What is it?
three-peat. He wants a three-peat. The Philadelphia Eagles said access denied as the Eagles pulled off the upset in Super Bowl 59, defeating the Chiefs 40-22. What's next for Philadelphia and what's next for the Chiefs? Back at home, the Bears will have $67 million in cap space this offseason. Can they be the next team to make a big jump for to be in that big game this time next year in San Francisco? We'll give you the details. In the NBA, the Chicago Bulls blow a 24-point lead, losing to the Golden State Warriors, and Hubie Brown gets a send-off tribute in Milwaukee. Baseball spring training is kicking off for everybody this week, and we'll have a special edition of Old School TV Monday saluting Black History Month. That and a whole lot more. So the Monday edition of the program starts right now. Welcome to a Monday edition, another fun Monday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. This is Sidney Brown. You know by now that this is me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kid McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically funny, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. The kid will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you Dumbos to Bill and be a boot.
What else?
But before we begin, we must remind you whether you're watching us live on our YouTube and Facebook pages or you're catching us on the replay. Shout out to the replay gang. Don't you never, ever forget. We will always provide.
We'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports, of course, as Sid said in the teaser. Warriors go on a 56-13 run to beat the Bulls on Saturday. Yuck. And another injury setback for AD, double yuck, especially if you're a Mavs fan. College hoops as we gear up for the last 3 or 4 weeks of the regular season as we go into practice will be coming up in about 5 weeks. Also, we got a special edition of Old School TV Monday as we continue our salute to Black sitcoms for all this Black History Month. But first, everyone's talking about it. The big game, of course, Super Bowl 59, which took place down in the Big Easy in New Orleans last night. And look, I, and our Gurkha Stream man from KXRB, we all picked the Eagles. I don't think anybody who did pick the Eagles thought that this was going to be the score. 40-22. I know that the score, it's only 18 points. No. It was basically all Eagles all the time. Jalen Hurts won MVP, 221. Passing yards, 2 TDs, and an interception. That was a bad interception early on in the game. He also had 72 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown each had a touchdown catch. But it was really the defense for the Eagles that was a big story here. They sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times and 2 interceptions that he threw. They basically made Mahomes look human. Guys like, Josh Sweat, who had 2.5 sacks, Milton Williams, who had 2 sacks. They're just a third pair of teammates to have at least 2 sacks in the Super Bowl. Also, Zach Baum, who was in the Saints practice squad just a couple of years ago. Now he's an all-pro defensive end. He led the defense in tackles. There, Cooper DeJean, also, happy birthday to him, by the way. He celebrated his 22nd birthday last night in the Super Bowl. That's what President also one of those interceptions ended up being a pick 6 by him. So, Sid, what do you think? I mean, just a dominant performance by the Eagles, and yeah, I don't think anybody saw that score coming.
I didn't expect that dominant performance by the Eagles front four coming like that. As we talked about on Friday, LaKeena, I thought the matchup was going to come down to the trenches between the Eagles offensive line and the Chiefs defensive line. It was the Eagles defensive line which wasn't getting a much credit and much praise during the 2 week period between the championship conference championship games and leading up to the Super Bowl. Those men on the front four you mentioned with Williams and Josh Sweat, I thought one of them or both of them should have had co MVPs. But congrats to Jalen Hurts on getting that award. But give a whole lot of credit to longtime veteran defensive coordinator Vic Fangio of the Eagles. He did a great job. Two thumbs up to him. He's been around this game a long time. We talked about Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator on the other side for the Chiefs. He's done a great job with that Chiefs defense. But I think we talked about this too a couple weeks ago when the Chiefs defeated the Buffalo Bills in the AFC title game. The Chiefs' run defense has been good, but it was tested. It was bending and it almost broke in that second half in that win against Buffalo. It didn't quite break in terms of the Philadelphia's running game with Saquon Barkley. They actually held him in check, but Jalen Hurts turned on the Jets, and you could tell that the Chiefs defensive line were starting to get tired. And Chris Jones had an injury early. He did come back in the game, but you tell that the fatigue was setting in on that Chiefs defensive line. That offensive line for Philadelphia were magnificent, and the Philadelphia's defense, as I talked about just a second ago, they were magnificent last night too. The Chiefs' running game, it really didn't get going. I thought Patrick Mahomes started to force the issue, especially early. Vic Fangio dialed up the blitzes at the right time. You mentioned they picked off Mahomes twice, forced 3 turnovers overall. A great job by the whole Philadelphia defensive squad last night.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. And if you had told me that Mr. Saquon Barkley, who also had a birthday, just turned 28, so happy birthday to him as well, would be held to just 25 carries but only 57 yards, I would have thought that okay, maybe the Chiefs probably may have a shot to win this game. Well, you know what? Hurts said, you know what? I'm going to throw the ball, and he did just that. I mean, he had that bad interception early on, but he was able to shake that off and come back. He got that monster TD pass to Smith, which ended up being the dagger for the Eagles there. And it was just one of those days where the game itself was just like, okay, if they had that iffy pass interference call against Brown, and it was you thought, oh great, here we go again. Now, of course, there was a bad call by Trent McDuffie, so I guess it was definitely a makeup call there, but it ended up not even being the case. So shout out to the Eagles for kind of shaking that off, and they were able to basically dominate. And look, this is still a very young Eagles squad. I mean, Sweat's a second-year guy. Williams is a rookie. We'll be interested to see what happens with Baum because his contract is up, so he's made an All-Pro and now has a Super Bowl ring, so they may not be able to keep him. Quinion Mitchell, of course, is a young guy. Deshaun, of course, we know that he's a rookie, of course, from Iowa, two-time All Big Ten corner, and just an interesting mix of players here. And of course, you're happy for Darius Slay. Took him 12 years, but he finally gets his first ring. Guys like Brandon Graham, who didn't contribute too much, but you can tell that his leadership definitely helped. He kept talking to the guys throughout, but that kind of helped there. Also, Dallas Goedert, who had a couple of big TDs, big passes, I should say, that kept the drives going for the Eagles to kind of keep things going there, keep Mahomes and the offense off the field. He gets his second ring as well. Lane Johnson gets his second ring. So I want to make sure guys are getting their second ring. So it was just a couple of years ago that you thought that maybe this was going to happen a couple of years ago when these two teams met, but Hurts had that bad interception, and then that kind of started the whole thing there. And it was just a reverse this time around.
Yeah, let's also to give credit to soon-to-be New Orleans Saints head coach Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator currently of the Philadelphia Eagles. He dialed up a great game plan last night. As you mentioned, Saquon Barkley didn't have the stats, but Jalen Hurts, Kellen Moore, the OC, made the adjustments. As I told you on this program on Friday, we thought that Saquon Barkley was going to get off early. I said if he gets up early, look for the middle of the field to be open up for Philadelphia. Dallas Goedert Caught 2 passes, as you mentioned, to keep those drives alive in the first half. Unfortunately, they didn't go to him for the rest of the game. But I said that was my second sneaky Super Bowl MVP pick behind Jalen Carter. But Dallas Goedert had those 2 catches early, kept those drives alive. Jalen Hurts, with his running ability, you notice that the Eagles called out more quarterback bootlegs and more of him. Talking about Hurts using his feet to extend plays and make plays down the field with the play action passes. I thought those play calls were excellent last night. Those plays by Jalen Hurts, especially him coming out of the pocket, definitely kept the Chiefs' defense on their heels.
And they didn't blitz him either. Like the defense did not blitz him, not even once. And that's really a rare. I think that's only the fourth time in Super Bowl during the Super Bowl era that has happened. So just a really just dominated performance. And it looks like look, Fangio, look, we saw him do that stuff here in Chicago. You saw how dominant that defense was for like maybe a couple of years. Unfortunately, they couldn't get any of the other stuff going, but that's a whole different conversation. But remember when they played when he coached the Super Bowl, that was back when Seattle just bombasted the Broncos. Of course, he was the DC for the Broncos at the time when that took place. So it is definitely kind of a redemption thing for him. After 38 years, he finally gets his first ring. So you're happy for Vic Fangio. Also for Nick Sirianni too. I mean, he called one hell of a game. And remember, we talked about it earlier this season where I think he was getting into it with the Philly fans and people say he should be fired and blah 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 and some other stuff that kind of went on there. But look, he kind of. It's interesting if you heard his interview with Aaron Andrews afterwards. He said that they played my prerogative after the championship, the NFC Championship game. I'm sure they got a lot. I'm sure that Bobby Brown's probably happy they got a lot more downloads with that song. Now that
Teddy Riley too, along with Babyface and Elliot Reed too.
Yep. So I'm sure they got a nice little royalty checks there, a little bump there. But I think he kind of they kind of like just ignore the noise and just sort of got it going there. He's also the first head coach to be a coach 20 plus years younger. He's only 30. He's only like 4. He just turned like 40 or something like that in the last fall. They have been 0-8 all time facing coaches 20 plus years and older. And also, to kind of cap off that part of it, they denied the Chiefs a three-peat. This is the ninth time that a team has denied a team from three-peating in the Super Bowl, so another sort of thing there. So it was basically all. I know Xavier Worthy got 2 TDs, but those were like in garbage time. The game was already like in hand, and it was basically garbage time TDs. But it was basically dominant from start to finish. It was basically all Eagles from the word go.
Yeah, and remind me to talk about this when we follow this break. Where does the Philadelphia Eagles' defensive performance rank in Super Bowl history? I had some thoughts on that. And we had to talk about the coverage that Fox had last night, the halftime show, and we'll get into the Bears, the team that fits in this Cinderella slipper for next year. But I just want to say this before we break for the bottom of the hour. Great job by Nick Sirianni, the whole organization, the whole coaching staff. Remember, LaKeena, at this time last year, they lost terribly to Tampa Bay in the wild card game. Jason Kelsey, now with ESPN, he was sent crying into retirement. Nick Sirianni, his job was on the line. He didn't get fired, but he had to change both coordinators. It turned out to be the both moves to get a new DC and a new OC turned out to be a wonders. They made some smart moves in free agency, and after that 2-2 start, those questions rose again. You mentioned him arguing with some of the Philadelphia fans. They only lost 1 game since that 2-2 start. Now was when Jalen Hurts got hurt at Washington, no pun intended, late in the season. But Philadelphia picked it up after that sluggish start, and they won their second Super Bowl in the last 8 years last night. So Nick Sirianni, even though looking into it, he's done a remarkable job. 2 Super Bowl trips in 3 years with 1 title. I'll take it, especially here in Chicago.
I think a lot of teams would love that. So we'll have to have that problem. So, like you said, we'll talk more about that coming up next. We'll talk about. I thought the post-game stuff was a little bit, rushed there, but we'll get to all that also. Studs and duds, commercials, Kendrick Lamar's halftime show, and even the stuff prior to that, and a whole lot more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports, Sports in Chicago. More Super Bowl 59 talk right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year. This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to another Monday edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and live on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID.
You can follow my LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left in this fabulous program we call the Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we continue to recap last night's Super Bowl performance by the Philadelphia Eagles, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Now, on the flip side, though, for the Chiefs, as we continue our Super Bowl talk recap here, Mahomes just couldn't get it going. Like I said, like we said in the first segment, had a pick six, with those 2 interceptions, also 6 sacks. I think that's only the second time in Super Bowl history that's ever happened where a defense has had at least 6 sacks, at least 2 interceptions, and it just was all Eagles. And the Mahomes, they just can't get the running game going. Travis Kelce only had 4 receptions. DeAndre Hopkins only had a couple. Just to kind of make everyone look ordinary. And the defense too, look, they did what they could. They did what they wanted to do. They kept Saquon at bay, but it was just that Hurts said, okay, you know what? Okay, we'll just throw the ball then. And that's what happened. So I don't think it was anything more that the Chiefs could have done. I felt like they kind of skated by through most of the season, and look, they got exposed for what they were last night.
Yeah, yeah. As we said in the first segment, we had to give Vic Fangio, the DC of the Eagles, credit for a great game plan on keeping Mahomes in the pocket, and when he decided to out all the labor for throwing, as I said in our opener, they forced him to throw a couple of bad interceptions last night, and one of them, Cooper DeJean, returned it for a pick six, which affected the Chiefs running game. They really couldn't get it going. And let's not forget, Travis Kelce was a non-factor in that first half. I know he ended up with 4 catches for 39 yards at the end, but he was a non-factor too in that first half. Xavier Worthy mentioned he had a couple touchdowns toward the end of the game, but the game was basically over. He was a non-factor as well. You remember he had a great game 2 weeks ago against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC title game. So Philadelphia did a great job on staying with the Chiefs in pass coverage all the way and taking them completely out of their running game. And I want to mention this too as well, LaKeena, about the offensive line of the Chiefs. Both players' numbers 62 and 66, both those guys had bad games last night. If you notice, most of the pressure came up the middle and on the left side of that offensive line. And as we mentioned with Williams and Josh Sweat, both those guys did a great job last night, especially on that left side of the Chiefs offensive line. Mahomes could not be protected from start to finish, and I thought the Chiefs offensive line really failed Mahomes last night.
Yeah, Joe Tooney, I think you're talking about probably one of the best old linemen, in the last 10, 15 years. But yeah, he was playing out of position for one. He usually plays center and guard, and of course they had him play left tackle because of this didn't have the depth there. And Sweat and Williams, they were able to just bone rush him, and the pressure was on all game long, and Mahomes really didn't know what to do. He kind of looked like sort of like lackadaisical. So it was just unfortunate that they just couldn't get it going there. And like I said, I mean, look, I'm not gonna sit there and say that the Chiefs, they're not like, oh, it's over. No, I'm not gonna go that far. But look, Kelsey's getting older. Mahomes is starting to kind of show a little bit of wear and tear, and the defense. Look, you saw what happened with Chris Jones in the last part of the game there. I mean, I think he hurt his knee, and he was kind of just couldn't really get it going there. And of course, I think he had to settle for the last half of the fourth quarter. It was just like like I said, I'm not going to say the Chiefs are done, but they needed to do some things because look, you saw Steve Spagnuolo how frustrated he got, especially after Hurts threw that pass to Brown that kind of was the dagger for the Eagles. So it was just like, I don't know what he was like. I don't know what you want. I don't know what more can we do. We tried. Look, we kept Barkley. We handcuffed Barkley, but they were able to beat us throwing the ball. So the Chiefs actually looked ordinary.
Yeah, going back to Jalen Hurts, I know many pundits, and we talked about it here on the show all year long. Listen to some Philadelphia sports radio the last couple of weeks. Some of the fans were complaining going into the championship game against you. Well, just you got to come for Buffett. Well, you have Saquon Barkley doing what he did all year. You don't need to put all the pressure on Jalen Hurts. That's what we've been saying all year. And last night, you mentioned the Chiefs defense did a great job stopping Saquon Barkley, which opened things up for Jalen Hurts. He took advantage of a couple of chances. He had a chance to throw it down the field. You saw that one play earlier. He threw the A.J. Brown, got the offense going. And we mentioned about Dallas Goedert, the tight end. His 2 catches in that first quarter, and then of course that long pass to Devontae Smith for that touchdown. Jalen Hurts can throw, folks, and for those that say that he can't do this, he can't do that, he's just a glorified pedestrian quarterback. If you didn't watch last night's game with good intentions, I don't know what to tell you other than that you're not watching his game closely.
Yeah, well played by that Nike ad that they posted right after the Eagles ended up clinching the title. They were, basically saying to all the haters, who thought that, you can't throw. Look, I remember when he got benched when he was at Alabama in the national championship game for Tua, and people thought that, okay, well, that's going to be it for him. I know he ended up going to Oklahoma, having a really great career there, a couple of Big 12 titles. and a trip to the playoff. But I think this is sort of like a thing that kind of like you can tell you saw how stoked he was after all that happened. I think he kind of answered all his critics, and look, you can't take that away from him now. So I think he's showing people that, hey, you know what? Yeah, look, he said it a couple years ago when the Chiefs beat the Eagles. He said, "Look, I'm coming back. I'll be back." Well, he came back, and he had that little hiccup early with the interception, but he was able to settle down and basically dominated from there.
And shout out to the late great Teddy Pendergrass. Love TK, y'all. I'm sure his estate is getting a nice
Oh
royalty
yeah.
check
Oh
or
yeah.
checks today,
Oh yes. Yes.
especially from the Jordan brand. You
Oh
listen.
yes. Yes.
You listen to second. You listening to Second City. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you, recapping last night's Super Bowl 59 performance by the Philadelphia Eagles. They knock out the two-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. Let's go over to the other side, LaKeena. Patrick Mahomes. I had this crazy thought going through my head as the clock wound down, and the Eagles were. Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls, correct? If my math
Yes.
is correct,
Mhm.
3 Super Bowls overall.
Mhm.
Okay. Remember in 2007 when the Patriots lost to the Giants? Tom
Mhm.
Brady, his team did not complete the undefeated season. It took him and the Patriots 7 years to get back. Of course, they beat the Seattle in there. I don't want to say that Patrick Mahomes is guaranteed not to come back, but it's a very realistic possibility that he may not come back to a Super Bowl. I know he's 29 years old, but think about this. It took Tom Brady 7 years to get back to a Super Bowl and actually win it. And at that time, it was a 10-year gap between the 2004 championship and the 2014 championship. So could that same trajectory happen to Patrick Mahomes? Yes. I know he's 29. He's been healthy for the majority of part of his career, but he's still in the middle of his prime. And is it a guarantee that he's going to go back next year or the year after? No. I think if he stays healthy, I think the Chiefs can make at least a couple more trips to the Super Bowl. But think about this: the AFC is getting better. Buffalo, if they make some correct moves, they could be representing the AFC next year. Look at Baltimore. Lamar Jackson was a runner-up for MVP. If they could just cut down their own mistakes, unlike the game they lost at Buffalo in the playoffs, they'll be there. Plus, you're always going to have some surprise teams here and there. So it's not a guarantee fact that the Chiefs are going to go back to the 4th straight Super Bowl next year. Remember, looking at the experts that we had on during training camp, we asked them, are you taking the Chiefs or are you taking the field? Most people took the field. So, and this is one of the reasons why. And we talked about this in the NBA with the Golden State Warriors several years ago. We saw it here in Chicago with the 90s in the Chicago Bulls. All those years and all those games that you play, it adds up. Fatigue and injury starts to set in, and you have to retool and reload. The problem is, how long will it take for you to get back on top?
Well, and I remember those that gap, that 6 7 year gap that Brady had, and I know I know he talked about it a little bit last night during the broadcast. And like you said, I mean, and to kind of piggyback off that, Houston could get better. That actually that whole AFC South, could get a lot better. The Chargers, if they freshen up some things, they could get better. The Raiders now have Pete Carroll, who has a Super Bowl ring. Also, the Broncos still they got Sean Payton, who also has a Super Bowl ring. So the AFC is going to be even better, and I feel like we'll see what Aaron Glenn does over with the Jets, the Dolphins. We'll see if they can kind of freshen up some things. So yeah, so there's no guarantee that this could. I'm not going to say this might be the last time we'll see Mahomes and the Chiefs at the Super Bowl, but it's good. Might take some time because look, the Eagles kind of gave everyone the formula how to beat them. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams are like, okay, so that's how you do it. So it's going to be tough. But like you said, Kelsey might retire, maybe if not this after this season, but maybe next season. Xavier Worthy, I think he'll get better, but they're kind of showing you how to kind of neutralize him a little bit. The defense, look, Chris Jones, you saw a little bit of a wear and tear there as well. So yeah, I mean the Chiefs, they're gonna. I don't understand why they're the favorites according to ESPN bet, but they're whatever. But it's gonna be hard for them to come back because there's no guarantee that they may even win their division next year.
Yeah, let's not forget about Rasheed Rice, who got injured early in the year, and he had some off-the-field trouble going into this season, so he may be suspended for the first few games of next year. We'll see what happens with about that. Uh, what will they do in the running back situation? Isaiah Pacheco is still there, but will they let Kareem Hunt go, or will they bring him back for like the third time if someone gets hurt next year?
Mhm.
So the Chiefs need a playmaker in the running back department, and they need to fix their offensive line. As I mentioned last night, they did Patrick Mahomes no favors.
Oh yeah, he was. You can tell how frustrated. You've never seen him so frustrated. We've seen him frustrated, but this was like beyond
Mhm.
frustrated. So, especially the biggest stage. So, but you're also on the flip side though. You're happy for guys like McGee Becton, who was a bust over with the Jets. People called him fat and out of shape. He ended up coming back and end up winning the Super Bowl. There as well. So yeah, you're happy for those guys that are kind of the kind of the journeymen. Of course, Jordan Malala, who is the left tackle for the Eagles, who's from Australia. Was playing rugby about 5 years ago, mind you. Now he's one of the best left tackles in the league, and now he has a Super Bowl ring, the first Aussie to have a Super Bowl ring in his arsenal down there as well, and another like also another defensive guy. I gotta think of his name. Ooh, he's from Africa. Moro Ajomo. He's from Nigeria. He is the first African-born player to have a Super Bowl ring. So a nice little
Shout out to the
bit of
continent.
yeah, so a little international flavor there. Also, Autumn Lockwood. Now, who is she? You're wondering. Well, she is the associate performance coach for the Eagles. She is the first Black woman to coach and to win a Super Bowl ring. So, lots of history there for the Eagles and their staff. And their victory parade is going to be on Friday. So, nice little Valentine's Day for all you Eagles fans. You might take your sweetie over there to where they're having the parade. So nice little shout out for them as well. I know they're already like have them climbing light poles. It's like 2 a.m. over there in Philly. So hopefully, operate safely, folks. Just saying. But I want to talk about the coverage for a second, Sid. I mean, okay, the pre stuff, of course, 5-6 hours. Okay, it's mostly filler, whatever. That was a nice performance by Lady Gaga. Especially after everything that's happened in the first few months of the year so far. That was a beautiful performance. The Beautiful, those musicians from New Orleans, that was a nice touch. John Baptiste did a great job with the national
Yes.
anthem. Just a wonderful putting his own spin on it. Probably one of the better ones we've seen in a few years. But Kendrick Lamar's halftime show got rubbed some folks the wrong way, I guess. And look, it was basically a Kendrick concert. So if you've ever been to a Kendrick Lamar concert or seen his concert specials, this is basically what you got. So I know some people didn't get it because, of course, but look, his song, Not Like Us was like one of the top downloaded songs all of last year, and it won both Record and Song of the Year at the Grammys last week. So I know you guys have probably heard that song, so miss me with some of that. But you had Serena Williams, Crip walking. That was just hilarious. Sam Jackson as Uncle Sam. I mean, what? I mean, look, look, I think Prince and Michael Jackson. You probably even put you probably put Usher's, maybe near like the top 10.
Yeah.
But I think, look, it wasn't I know people say, oh, it was the worst halftime show ever. I think some of y'all just didn't know what y'all. You guys weren't Kendrick fans. That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, I know some people thought that, including yours truly, thought that Little Wayne was going to get mentioned or included in that show last night somehow. From what I've heard, that didn't happen. Of course, Drake, who Kendrick had a beef with last year, he was nowhere to be found, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I saw a couple of clips of that halftime show online. It wasn't as long like it usually is, LaKeena, and I found that to be interesting.
Yeah.
It was only 15, 20 minutes, because usually those shows last at least 20 minutes, but so a few minutes were shaved off. I wonder why. But Samuel L. Jackson didn't yell or scream, because in all his movies he yelling and screaming. He didn't do it at last night's concert. That's a shock at first. So I found that to be interesting. But me, LaKeena, especially unless your team is involved, I don't watch all that pregame. But I did catch one segment on Fox, and you can find this on their YouTube channel at NFL on Fox. With the little help of AI, as Kurt Menefee said, this was during the last segment of the pregame show before they did all the pomp and circumstance. They celebrated the life and football career of Jimmy Johnson, and I thought that was very cool. And Jimmy Johnson started crying at the end. He said, "This is the happiest day he's ever been in his life." And I think Howie Long asked him at the end, "Is this a goodbye?" And he said, "Only one day at a time, one day the time we talked about it on Friday. The news is Terry Bradshaw is preparing for his retirement, and we talked about a couple of people who could replace Terry Bradshaw. Again, I know change is going to happen at some point, and it does, especially in this business in general. But I think he's 80, 81, 82 now. He's still sharp. We all know that he's been there with them since the beginning, minus the years that he coached the Miami Dolphins. He's sharp. People still love him, and he's very respected around the football world. So, selfishly, I hope he doesn't go anywhere, but if he decides to step away within the next year or two, I'll understand. But I really enjoyed him being on television and still do. He has that it personality. Fox let him be himself, and you can't help but respect that and love it at the same time.
Yeah, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I'm like, wait, is everything okay? He's not dying, is he? I mean, I think I kind of like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? But yeah, but look, I think if he decides, look,
Right.
I'm done. I want to retire. Oh, okay. Look, I don't think anybody would hate that. So, it's fine. If he decides that he wants to retire. Now, I will say, well, okay, we'll do our special Super Bowl edition of Studs and Duds. Okay, I guess I'll start. My stud, of course, is Jalen Hurts, of course. 221 yards, 2 TDs, and a rushing TD, 72 rushing yards as well. You could probably say that one of the defensive guys, you probably could have given them the MVP, but you can kind of see why the Hurts ended up winning the MVP trophy. Vic Fangio had a great. We really do it to coordinators, but I figure we might as well do it here for the biggest game. He had a great game plan to slow down Mahomes and that offense. That's exactly what they did. They did dominate from the word go and just deserve it. He probably finally got it. They probably got that meme of him when he was with the Bears and with the the little cool little meme there. That was a cool photo. Just love that photo. But yeah, I know he's now after 38 years finally gets his first ring. And I'll say, and well, look, just all the kids after you saw all the kids, celebrating with their dads. You saw, Saquon with his 2 kids. You got AJ Brown with his 2 kids. You saw, of course, Brandon Graham with his 2 kids. This is their second. I know they're a little bit older now, so they can appreciate it and savor the moment a little bit more. So yeah, just seeing all the Eagles players and also coaches too. You saw Nick Sirianni with his 3 kids. Of course, his youngest. Miles, the adorable. So yeah, just those little cute little moments kind of just tickles me about these type of these championship games. Yep.
All right, my 3 starts are as follows. Of course, a combination of Williams and Josh Sweat with 4.5 sacks combined. Last night, both those guys should have been MVPs. Well, I'll give my second stud to Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. Kellen Moore let Jalen Hurts cook last night, took what the Chiefs defense gave him after they were focusing on stopping Saquon Barkley. Hurts aired it out last night. He led the Eagles down the field and led them to points, and the Eagles came out on top. And, of course, my third stud, bonus stud, will go to the University of the Southern University HBCU marching band. I don't know if you caught that. Even though this guy did not perform, but he did come out Master P. Even though he's a little bit heavier now and he's a little bit older than us, but he still looks good. He got a great reception from the crowd, doing all the pregame stuff. So I want to give my bonus stuff to the Southern HBCU marching band along with Master P.
Love it. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the pre stuff before the other stuff. Okay, my 3 duds. The Chiefs defense. Look, I'll give you a dud because you couldn't slow it down. You slowed down Barkley, but you couldn't slow down the Eagles air attack. So sorry about that, Chiefs defense. I'll go off the cuff here for my second and third duds. All the people that are criticizing Tom Brady, go pound sand. I think he did a good job. I'll give him a solid B because look, it was a blowout, folks. That actually also didn't help either. So it's kind of hard to try to find material. But the guy with the 10 Super Bowls, so he got years and years of experience. So y'all can miss with all the critiques and stuff like that. So y'all can go pound sand there. Also, but I will also say Fox Sports. I mean, what's with the drive-by post-game show? I mean, I would love to have heard from from Barkley, from Brown, from um, Dijon, who had that great pick six that kind of broke the game open. But thankfully, FS1, Carissa Thompson and the crew there, they did a good job. Also, NFL prime time. I know Barkley and Dijon had some birthday cake. They ordered some birthday cake for him. That was really cool. And also NFL Network, they picked up the slack. So sorry, Fox Sports, y'all deserve a dud for that post game coverage.
I just have a couple of duds. The Kansas City Chiefs offensive line, the Kansas City Chiefs, the second game last night. And my third dud, it will go to the halftime show. No, I'm not going to say it's the worst I've ever seen. I've seen worse, ladies and gentlemen, but them cutting back on a few minutes of it, I didn't get that. But those will be my three duds.
All right, all right. So, Super Bowl 60 next year will be at Levi Stadium, in the Bay Area. So, and also it'll be in Santa Clara. It'll also be on NBC. So, it's gonna be a busy year for busy month for NBC. Not only you got the Super Bowl 60 coming up. I'm sure they're gonna do a lot of big stuff coming up. Since it's gonna be the 60th Super Bowl, but also they're gonna be doing the Olympics down in Italy. Milano and Cortuna, and also, of course, it's also going to be the 100th anniversary of the network itself. So it's going to be a very busy first couple of months of the year for NBC next year. So should be a good one over there in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium.
Yeah, the NBC Sports you mentioned they'll be very busy. The Winter Olympics, of course, the Super Bowl. Of course, remember that following week they'll have the return of the NBA All-Star Game, which I'm sure we'll get into. I'm sure next hour in our next show coming up on Friday. So Mike Tirico and crew, he's going to be very busy over the next year or so. So I hope they're ready.
Absolutely. No, we got a little bit of time before I know we got up against it, but some of the stuff that actually has come out about guys might be on the move. Well, Deebo Samuel, the do-it-all wide receiver / running back for the 49ers, has said that this news kind of dropped like right before all the pre-game pomp and circumstance. He said that he is, that he's open for a trade, and the 49ers might will try to accommodate him. So, Sid, what do you think?
Well, we talked about this at the end of the year with the 49ers suffering through major injuries. We had our guest, Mr. Larry Beal from ABC 7 out there in the Bay Area. The 49ers are going to be facing some tough decisions because they got to pay Brock Purdy. And will Brock Purdy get the money that he thought he was going to get at the beginning of the year? Probably not. But the 49ers, we all know they have to get younger. They have to get better. George Kittle, I think he'll probably say, but some of the other guys, we saw the changes they had on defense going into this year. Eric Armstead leaving for Jacksonville, among others. Christian McCaffrey started out the year hurt. He may be a surprise cut. We'll see about that. So this is the 49ers and trying to get what they can and had to make it the tough decisions to move on. You mentioned also, too, LaKeena, about Trent Williams, who got his money before the start of the year. They may have to move on from him as well. They may not want to, but they may have to.
He may have to. I think in both cases they may have to take a pay cut too. So we'll see if he's willing to take a pay cut. I know that they're going to play it very smart here when it comes to Deebo. They're not going to give him away. So you're going to have to give him maybe a first, maybe a couple of firsts and a second rounder for him, or maybe a first and 2 second rounders for him. So we'll talk about that too down the line. But also real quick, Rodgers looks like he and the Jets are good. He's going to be saying goodbye to the Jets. So. According to Jay Glazer from Fox Sports, he dropped this little nugget during the pregame show. And someone said that, pardon my take, I don't know who runs that account, but someone said that maybe Minnesota might be a good place for Mr. Rodgers. What do you think?
Well, if you're a Bears fan, you will say hell no, but I would not be surprised either. I also heard the Indianapolis Colts or the Tennessee Titans. I could get maybe the Colts because they've been on the teeter peak of being a playoff team or quarterback Anthony Richardson has had his ups and downs, and mostly due because of injuries and inconsistencies. And so the Colts would make sense, but the Titans, I know Will Levis stinks, but the Titans I don't think they're nowhere close to being a playoff team. I don't think so. That'll be a bad spot for him. That's just me.
Plus with the Minnesota thing, I mean, he'll be indoors for at least half the season, so you don't have to worry about being out in the cold. So that might help him, especially since he's in his 40s now. And also, like I said, if again, depending on if they take a step back, I'm sure they're gonna have a very tough schedule next year. And look, you got Justin Jefferson. They may freshen up that tight end position. And they got Hawkinson there. Also with the running back as well, we'll see what they do there. And also they got a pretty good defense as well. So Vikings might be a good spot. The Colts, again, sort of the same situation. You're going to be indoors by about half the season. So, I think he'll look if he doesn't retire. I don't think he wants to retire, especially after the way things ended last year. But I can see him going to the Colts or the Vikings, somewhere where he can play in this controlled environment for most of the season at least.
Yeah, good point by you, LaKeena, about the Colts. They're in a controlled environment as well, and plus they're in a quote unquote, at least on paper, where we saw this year an easier division than the NFC North. We look at the NFC North. The Packers, even though they were injured off and on this year, they made it to the playoffs. The Bears looks like they have a new head coach, Ben Johnson. Of course, you said Detroit. Yeah, they got embarrassed in the divisional round this past year. Just look at the South. But if he's a comparator and wants to win right now, you go into Minnesota.
Right, so definitely to be continued there. So we'll see what happens there. So hour number 1 in the books, hour number 2 coming up here on Second Seed Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Of course, we'll take a really quick break. The Bulls blow a significant lead against Steph Curry and the Warriors. Another injury setback for AD. And could Luka be making his debut tonight? Well, we'll see. Hopefully. A whole lot more. Yeah, right, exactly. And of course, Old School TV Monday, and of course, College Hoops as well, and more stuff as we gear up for hour number 2. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. We go to the hardwood coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few
will earn the title United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on a Monday edition. You're locked and loaded and live in a living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am City Brown. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Excuse me. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
And so we kick off hour number 2 discussing the Chicago Bulls and the rest of the NBA from this past weekend, the best and worst from the association. If you have any questions or comments regarding that subject, you can hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. The Bulls were up 23 early the third quarter against the Warriors, and Steph Curry let it come back. 34 points. They was like a 56 to like 12 or something like that. Going throughout the second half, and just wasn't just couldn't hang on against the Warriors. Kobe White had 27 points. Excuse me, and they held the Bulls to just 17 points in the fourth quarter, and it was like I said, it was basically all Warriors mostly in the second half. They outscored the Bulls 77 to 42, and that's not going to win you a lot of games there. And like I said, no, it was Steph who led the way for the Warriors. Like I said, 34 points. He was 8 for 16 from 3-point range. Jimmy Butler in his debut, of course, going against the Bulls, for the Warriors. 25 points there as well this first game with them. Brandon Podziemski had 16 points, which was a career high for him off the bench for the Warriors. So, 3-point range, about 40% for the Warriors. And as for the Bulls, 27 points, but everyone else kind of struggled a little bit. Buzel's only had 16 points. Vooch only had 10. 50 points for your guy Jalen Smith off the bench. But yeah, it just wasn't enough for the Bulls as they got bum rushed by the Warriors late in the game.
You mentioned that third quarter has been a nightmare for the Bulls all year long, and last Saturday night was no different. You mentioned the Warriors put up a 42-piece in that third quarter. The Bulls came out hot, and I figured, it was a surprise, but I said, if they let the Warriors get back in, it's going to get ugly. And it turned out my worst fears, it came true. You mentioned the Bulls did shoot the ball well from the outside, and overall 44% overall, 43% from three, but they were a -8 in the offensive rebounding department. The Warriors doubled them up 16-8, and along with the 24 assists that the Bulls handed out last Saturday, they committed 17 turnovers. As I said before, if you have just as many turnovers as assists, you're not going to win very many ball games. And we kept saying this too over the last few years, especially this season now more than ever. You need to rebound the basketball, be aggressive, especially with your defense within the interior. It's just I mentioned with the offensive rebounds. The Warriors got the majority of their offensive rebounds during that big comeback in that third quarter. And being out rebounded in that department 16-8, it's not going to win you very many ball games in this league.
Just like I said, Vooch struggled from the field. And so that was a big reason why the Bulls were able to, the Warriors just couldn't, the Bulls just couldn't hang on and beat the Warriors. Like I said, they just turned into a buzzsaw there, and such. So yeah, it does get any easier for the Bulls. They got a home and home coming up, starting tomorrow against Detroit before the All-Star break. And I mean, they got the back-to-back games at home against Detroit. I'm not repeating myself, folks. Though this is actually the case. Actually, I do have 2 back-to-backs. Don't ask me why, but yeah, it's just like, yeah. I mean, I'm just glad. This is actually one of those times where I'm glad I don't get to watch the Bulls, so at least locally. So I was more than fine with that. So yeah, just a bad show for the Bulls and such. So yeah, it might get worse, folks. I'm just just saying, keeping it 100, as they say.
We talked about the Pistons, who the Bulls is. LaKeena mentioned they'll play over the next couple of nights. Detroit, as of this live broadcast, they're 27 and 26, right in the middle of the pack of the Eastern Conference. Give J.B. Bickerstaff and the rest of his staff credit for turning around that program quickly. We mentioned about Jaden Ivey. He's gone for the year with a season-ending injury. Cade Cunningham will be making his first All-Star appearance next weekend. And let's not forget about Isaiah Stewart. I know his claim to fame was getting in that ugly fight with LeBron James from a couple of years ago, but he's one of the key components coming off the bench. You'll see him tomorrow in these next couple of nights in that home-and-home series against the Bulls. So Detroit still has a lot of good pieces and a lot of young talent. They stay in your grill defensively. They're very, very effective offensively, and it's going to be a problem for the Chicago Bulls. As we talked about with the Bulls looking now with Zach being gone, it gives a lot of playing time to Josh Giddey. We already know that Lonzo Ball was given that contract extension last week. Good for him personally, but as far as the health of this franchise going forward, I don't know why AK Market Eversley did that, but it's also going to give a lot of playing time to Matas Buzelis. As you mentioned, he struggled last Saturday night against the Warriors, but it's going to give with the Levine trade out the way now, it's going to give Montes Buzelis a whole lot of playing time and hopefully develop his confidence going forward as well. But I want to ask you, LaKeena, Patrick Williams, one of the other guys that was not moved along with Vucevic at the trade deadline. I get why Billy Donovan decided to bring him off the bench, but do you see it as a move of desperation, or because if I'm Billy Donovan, okay, I understand as an organization what you're trying to do, but you're not giving me the players that I want in Patrick Williams. Try him in the starting lineup. We saw what happened around this time last year with Zach was out. He was actually playing well with confidence this year after signing the extension over the summer. I tried him starting. He's not being consistent. I'm trying him off the bench. He'll give me a sometimes effort, sometimes not. I don't know what to do with this guy, and I don't know what to do with this roster. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where the injuries haven't helped him, very much, and the teams are a little caught off guard by the money, because the money is really kind of it's what kind of keeping teams are like, man, I don't know if I don't want to take a contract of a guy that has had trouble staying healthy. So I think that's another reason. Look, if you hope and pray that maybe they can get it, they can try to move it during the off season, have at it. But I don't know if you're gonna get good value for him. So yeah, look, I said when word came out that they were going to try to move him. Good luck moving him, because you're not, like I said, you're not gonna be able to take that money, and people are like, wait, that's you guys paid him way too much. We're not going to take that contract. So that's probably one of the reasons why. Look, like I said, if he doesn't produce these last couple months, and you try to move him again, you're not going to be able to do that. So you make it literally like a bag of beans for Mr. Williams.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with this Bulls team going forward. They have 29 games remaining in the season. The All-Star break will be coming up later on this week. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago. LaKeena here with you. Let's dive into the rest of the association from over the weekend. And at the conclusion of yesterday's Philadelphia 76ers Milwaukee Bucks contest on ABC, Hubie Brown, 53 years in the NBA as a coach, as a broadcaster. His career came to an end. Both teams gave him a standing ovation after the Milwaukee Bucks gave him a video tribute earlier. Members of both teams came over to the scorer's table to greet him at the end of the game. Damian Lillard, in his post-game interview with Lisa Salters of ABC and ESPN, said that we had to give respect to those who paved the way for us regarding Hubie Brown. I thought that was a class act comment right there. So, LaKeena, give us your thoughts on the career of Hubie Brown.
Yeah, I remember, of course, when he coached the Knicks, and then, of course, he transitioned into the broadcasting career. Of course, CBS, he did that for many years. Of course, went on to do it over at ABC and ESPN Radio. Just a really solid. Even at 91, he was still, was very quick-witted and very sharp. And if you look at some of the stuff he's been through the last few years, he lost his wife. He outlived two of his kids, and I think his son passed away like late last year, and you can kind of tell how emotional he got, and still he still loves the game, and the game has loved him back. And look, he's one of the best, one of the all-time greats NBA analysts, and he's definitely going to be missed by a lot of people, even the younger. That was nice of Dame to give him a shout out, because, like I said, even some of the younger guys appreciate Hubie, and that's the kind of thing that's missing from a lot of these NBA analysts, nowadays. Just to kind of like keep it simple. You don't have to get too far into the weeds and lean on catchphrases. Just do your job, and people will get you, and the players got them, and just one of the great voices of the NBA that will be missed.
I think that's what Hubie Brown kept hammering home yesterday. He said about breaking down the nuances of basketball. People want to think you focusing on 6 players where there's 10 players on the court. You have to break down each situation. Don't hammer them down. Don't insult the audience. Just break it down to the simplest terms where everybody can understand. That's why I like Kenny Smith of TNT as well. Yes, he's coming from an era, from a culture where we can understand him, but he breaks it down enough where everybody can understand him, and he can get his point across without beating you over the head with it. I think that was Hubie Brown's message yesterday during his last broadcast. And he also said at the end, in his final words, that he gave his late father a shout out and some advice that he told him at 80 years old. Give it your all, give it 100%, and that's what he did for his 53 years involved with the NBA, from his broadcasting and his culture. I remember too, LaKeena, his last year coaching originally with the Knicks in '87. He got fired. Of course, he coached Bernard King, and of course the early years of Patrick Ewing. And of course, I remember him doing those Bulls Pistons games on CBS. Of course, he was Dick Stockton's #1 man the last 2 years on CBS during those Pistons championship runs. And of course, he reunited. He went to TNT after that. Of course, he reunited in the late '90s into the early 2000s before returning to coaching for those couple of years at Memphis Grizzlies, when he won Coach of the Year, I believe in 2004, 2005. I forgot which year that was. And then he went back to broadcasting to finish it up at ESPN. So you always learn something new with Hubie Brown if you paid attention to his broadcast. That's what good coaches do. They give you the details, the who, what, when, why, and how. And he was the best to ever do it. I think the next best that ever did it outside of Hubie Brown was Doug Collins.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, just in that same era too, if you think about it. So yeah, just like I said, a great voice from the NBA that will be missed by all of us. Going into the rest of the schedule for yesterday, Super Bowl Sunday, Houston held off Toronto by 7. Detroit, no trouble with Charlotte. Tobias Harris had 20 points there, the Bulls' next opponent. So we just see how the Bulls try to defend that group. Now going to Saturday, a loaded night on Saturday. You had the Clippers beat Utah. The Kings edged out the Pelicans. Denver beat Phoenix. Boston just dominated the Knicks. 40 points for Jason Tatum. Jalen Brunson had 36, but it wasn't enough, and a lot of the Knicks just struggled a little bit, and I think Cat's out too, so that's another reason why they struggled a bit against the Celtics on Saturday. Minnesota, no trouble with Portland. Jaden McDaniels had 30 points for the T-Wolves. OKC, no 50 burger for SGA, but he had 32 points as they beat Memphis. Atlanta, Trae Young, he was complaining about being left out of the All-Star game. Well, Giannis is going to be out, so now Trae Young gets his spot. So now he can feel a little bit better now. The Magic edged out San Antonio. The Lakers, Austin Reeves, 45 points, a career high for him, as they beat the Pacers to get their revenge on the Pacers. And the Mavs beat Houston by AD's 26 points. But unfortunately, he hurt himself again. He re-aggravated that ab strain. He's going to be gone for multiple weeks, up to a month, I think I saw somewhere. So unfortunately, Mavs fans are getting the full AD experience.
Yeah, I watched going back to that Dallas-Houston game. I did watch the entirety of that game last Saturday. It was a great performance, not only by him, but for the rest of the team. The Mavericks tied the franchise record with 8 18 shot blocks. Houston, their win was important for them yesterday at Toronto because of what happened to them last night. Back to the situation, they were missing. The Rockets struggled shooting early. They made a late attempt at a comeback. I'm talking about the game against Dallas last Saturday. But you could tell the Mavericks had some potential there with AD and Kyrie Irving, Najee Marshall, their young guy. He had a great game as well. But we talked about this all the time, LaKeena, especially at the trade deadline. You want those players to stay healthy. It's going to take time for them to gel and develop their chemistry. Now, with this Anthony Davis injury, it sets them back. And so I think Dallas will be able to hold down the fort, but it's going to be tough for them. Now, with the Lakers beating the Pacers, I don't know about you, LaKeena, even before the Anthony Davis trade, don't you find it interesting? They're starting to play inspired basketball. LeBron James has a little something left in him, and also too those role players you mentioned, like Austin Reeves, who had a big game last Saturday. They're starting to step up too.
Yeah, and as far as that trade to Charlotte's concerned for Mr. Mark Williams, that's not going to happen. Apparently, it was rescinded because I guess, Williams failed his physical, so. And it's I don't want to say it's funny, but I know that JJ really wanted Williams on that roster because he's kind of like a big guy up front, and he can kind of take kind of away shots from LeBron. And look, Charlotte basically they posted a tweet saying the other team really wanted him, but they decided they didn't want him anymore. So, he played at Duke, so of course there's a little bit of connection there. So now Dalton Connect's now back with the Lakers, and can we say awkward? I guess, but it happens. But it's rare that something like this happens, but it just makes you scratch your head when it does.
The Lakers said they still want a big guy. They have no choice now, but since the trade deadline has passed, so they had to go out on the free agent market, see if they could find someone to at least come in and fill in some minutes.
Yep. So we'll see if they can try to pull it off here. Now going to Friday's games to finish up. Phoenix needed overtime, but 47 points by Devin Booker. They beat Utah. OKC, Jalen Williams had 27 points as they beat Toronto. Malik Beasley had 36, a season high, as they beat Philadelphia. Detroit beats Philadelphia. Brooklyn beat Miami. Atlanta edged out Milwaukee, 24 points for Trae Young. Cleveland, with Donovan Mitchell's 33 points, and the Hornets edge out the Spurs, 117-116, behind Miles Bridges, 25.
Yeah, the Hornets get a rare victory at home this season. That was an exciting finish, and it was a great shot by Miles Bridges in that left corner to get the Hornets to win. I want to go back to Philadelphia for a second here. We mentioned, they lost at Milwaukee yesterday. News also came out after the game that Joel Embiid, who was injured around this time last year, he came back for the playoffs, but they lost to the New York Knicks in that first round. It looks like Joel Embiid may have to have surgery again. If that's the case, Philadelphia's season is over.
Well, you probably say it was already over with, I guess. And that's been a problem for him the last couple of years, that he hasn't been able to stay healthy since winning MVP finally. And you did all this. You got Paul George to come in, and it's not been very good. And they can't. No one can stay healthy. I know Maxi's been trying to kind of keep it going, but he's not able. He's been having injury problems himself. So. And, Philadelphia, you're just like, what can you do? So thank God for the Eagles. That's all you can say if you're a Philly fan. Just thank God for the Eagles. That's all you can say here. Did?
Yeah, and if you're a Bulls fan, this may be crazy coming out of my mouth, but if you play around 500 and the front office is happy with that, you may get back into the play-in game for the third straight year. I don't know. Just a silly thought.
Because they're kind of like a game back. I think a game and a half back last I checked of the Bulls, for the last playoffs. Well, number 10 spot, it's just not really playoff, but last 10 spot. So we'll see what happens there. Now going into this week's games as we go into the All-Star break, starting tonight. Could this be maybe a NBA Finals preview? Well, you got the T-Wolves and the Cavs at 6 o'clock. That should be interesting. Atlanta and Orlando, San Antonio and Washington, Charlotte and Brooklyn, Boston and Miami. The first game of the NBA TV, well, the only game of the NBA TV, tonight will be Golden State and Milwaukee. Of course, Golden State coming off that dominating second half against the Bulls. New Orleans at OKC, Sacramento and Dallas. That should be interesting. Portland and Denver, and the ESPN game, which was late scheduled because we'll see if Luka makes his appearance finally as Lakers host the Jazz. That'll be on ESPN and streaming on both ESPN Plus and Disney Plus.
All right, your schedule for Tuesday tomorrow looks like this. Toronto will travel to Philadelphia to play the 76ers. The first game in that TNT Tuesday night doubleheader will feature the New York Knicks against the Indiana Pacers. We mentioned earlier the Pistons will travel to Chicago to take on the Bulls tomorrow night at the UC. And the second game of that Tuesday night TNT doubleheader, which starts at 9 o'clock, is the Memphis Grizzlies visiting the Phoenix Suns.
Interesting. Wednesday, San Antonio and Boston is the first game of the ESPN doubleheader. Wemby versus the Celtics. That should be interesting. This should be a fun one. Charlotte and Orlando, Indiana and Washington, Philadelphia and Brooklyn, Atlanta and the Knicks, Toronto hosts Cleveland, Detroit and Chicago. Of course, no, I'm not repeating myself. I said it like about 10 minutes ago that they are playing back to back. Don't ask me how that's the case, but I think every team has had this kind of thing this year at least once. Milwaukee and Minnesota. That should be a interesting one down there at the Target Center. Miami and OKC. Yeah, Phoenix and Houston, Portland and Denver. No, I'm not repeating myself again. Los Angeles and Utah. Second game of the home and home there as well. And you got Golden State and Dallas. That's going to be the ESPN. The second game of the ESPN was a doubleheader. And you got Memphis and the Clippers at 9:30.
That should be interesting contest there. Thursday, the last day of the unofficial end to the first half of the year before the All-Star break commences next weekend in San Francisco. Your schedule looks like this. The Warriors will face the Rockets. Sacramento will visit New Orleans. The Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks will do battle, the rematch of the 2011 NBA Finals. And the lone game on TNT on Thursday, right before the All-Star break, we'll see the Oklahoma City Thunder visiting the Minnesota Timberwolves, playing the Utah Jazz in Salt Lake City. And that's your schedule for this weekend. The NBA wrapping up the unofficial first half of the year.
Stay tuned. We'll keep it locked here as we'll talk even more hoops. This time on the college side, as Illinois gets back on track and a big matchup tonight. In the SEC. Yeah, so some interesting stuff coming up next. A couple of upsets here and there as well. We'll do some sports media news and a special edition of Old School TV Monday as we continue our salute to Black sitcoms all month long. So a lot of fun to have still. LaKeena, McGee, and Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Go do a little rapid fire coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. You're locked and loaded and live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our last break of the show for today. So you have any questions or comments for us, or as we do our rapid fire segment, including old school TV money salute and Black History Month, you can hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Staying in hoops, I should say, we're going to do the college variety. We'll start locally. Illinois got a nice win against Minnesota, 95-74. Will Riley had 27 points, which is a season high for him. And look, we've been saying about this Illinois team for seems like forever. And look, when they play like this, they're tough to beat. But when you saw the team that we saw against Maryland and Nebraska, it's sort of like, okay, but at least now you can kind of relax a little bit about the Illini, at least for the next couple of days anyway.
Yeah, it was a great performance by the Illini from start to finish. They took it to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They shot the ball well overall at 63%, their best shooting percentage of the year. They only took 16 threes, made 9 of them for a 56% percentage from the three-point range. Also, too, rebounding, as we talked about all year, LaKeena, they had to be great there. They won the best rebounding teams in the Big Ten. They had a plus 12 advantage in the rebounding department overall at 38 to 26. Over the Golden Gophers. They had 21 assists to only 6 turnovers. That's a very good ratio, especially for this fighting the Illini team. We know those young guys that like to get out and run. But you mentioned Will Riley. He's been on his game, in my opinion, for the last month. He looks like he's one of those guys that says, hey, when the pressure gets upon us, I'm that guy that wants to take the shot. I want to be the guy that takes the pressure off the rest of my teammates. We talk about Jacusionis all year long. I know he's been injured off and on all year. He's been very good too, but Will Riley, it looks like he wants to be the guy and to be that second banana to Cajuciones. But so, at times, Will Riley is that guy that wants to take over. Just let him cook. It looks like his teammates like following him, and that's what we've been seeing from him over the last month. But as far as last Saturday's performance for the Illini, that's what you need to do against subpar teams. They dominated from start to finish, and they picked up the much needed win.
Yeah, speaking of Jonas, he had 24 points there and helping out with the Illini's route of the Golden Gophers. Now, it doesn't get any easier for Illinois these next few games before the Big Ten tournament. They got to play UCLA tomorrow. That's going to be a tough one. They've been playing better lately. Michigan State, no, that's not Brad Underwood on the phone, calling, so don't have to worry about that. Michigan State on Saturday. That's going to be a good one. That's going to be on Fox. They're only meeting against Wisconsin all year long.
In prime time.
Yeah. Also, another primetime matchup. They got to play at Wisconsin at the Kohl Center. That's not going to be easy. And they've got a late season game against Duke. Don't ask me why they're doing this in the near the end of February, but whatever. Then they got Michigan and also to Purdue to finish up the season with Iowa in between. So it doesn't get any easier for Illinois, but this is actually a nice way for them to get some wins. So hopefully this will be sort of a nice little run there, although the schedule doesn't get any easier for them. The rest of the schedule for this, Walter Clayton Jr. had 19 points as Florida upset Auburn. Clemson, they upset Duke. They get a little bit get back, freshen up on that resume there. Alabama, no trouble. They held off Arkansas, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. Tennessee beat Oklahoma easily, and Houston got a little get back there. They beat Colorado by 10.
Yeah, speaking of Michigan State, they get by Oregon by 12, 86 to 74. Iowa State in Big 12 action, they dominate TCU by 30, 82 to 52. The Big East is quietly becoming one of the best conferences in the country. We talked about Rick Pitino being head coach of the year overall, but Marquette, they were upset by Creighton 77 to 67. Me personally, I know you talked about this team all year. Marquette perhaps being the second best team in the Big East, but Creighton sneaking up on people as well. Not too many people are talking about them.
This is 9 in a row for Creighton, and look, they've beaten UConn. I think they do face St. John's this week, so we'll see what this team is made of. Look, I mean, when they hit their threes, they're good. When they don't, that's what was happening to them early this season. They're hard to gather. But look, Coach Maduro's always done a great job with that program. Like I said, the 3-point has really been their friend. So once they're hitting them, they're kind of tough to beat. And Marquette unfortunately got the tail end of that on Saturday.
Yep, Arizona beats Texas Tech 82-70. These are the results from Saturday. Kentucky, they get back on track, beating South Carolina by 23, 80 to 57. Kansas got upset by Kansas State 81-73. I saw a little bit of this game Saturday afternoon. Coleman Hawkins, the former Illinois Fighting Illini standout, he had a big game as well. I saw the end of that first half. This game was on before that Pacers-Lakers telecast on ESPN. Kansas State, I know they've been struggling this year, but these two in-state rival schools, they always go at it. Are worried about. Now we talked about it on our show last week, LaKeena. Are worried about Kansas a little bit. They're a little bit better this year than last year. They lost at Baylor a couple of weeks ago. Now they drop another bad game on the road. This time to Kansas State. Are you starting to worry about them at all? I'm talking about the Jayhawks.
Yeah, I'm worried about them a little bit because a lot of their transfers have not produced. Hunter Dickinson, he had 21, but he can't do it by himself. So a lot of the guys that they got from the transfer portal, they just haven't produced yet. And look, I mean, the K-State, you give them credit. I mean, this is like their 4th straight win against Kansas. So I think this is the first time that they've swept Kansas in a few years. So look, they're starting to put together a little bit of a resume of building for them. So. Look, hopefully Kansas can figure it out, but it's tough in that new Big 12. I mean, you got Arizona to contend with. They've been playing better lately, climbing up the ranks, of course. You got Houston, Iowa State. I mean, look, it's going to get tougher and tougher for Kansas. So we'll see if they can get back on track, but it's going to get interesting as we get like in these last few weeks of the season.
Back to the results from Saturday in Big Ten action. We said this was possibly a process of an elimination game. Iowa loses big at home to number 21 Wisconsin, 74-63. As we talked about Purdue being the leader of the pack in the Big Ten, then it's Michigan, and then everybody else bunched up together. Wisconsin with a big win on the road.
Yeah, like I said, they're kind of Greg Garb got his guys playing well, and they're kind of closing up the ranks too. They had a little bit of hiccup the first couple weeks of Big Ten play, but they're back on track. And John Tonje had 22 points. He's probably one of the better point guards in the country, if not just in the Big Ten. So they're starting to get it going there. And Michigan, shout out to everybody at Spiro News who had to call this game with Bill Raftery for CBS. They overcame a huge comeback from Indiana. But they held them off 70-67, and the situation with Mike Woodson, I know he told them what's going on. I guess he wants to wait till after the season. Hopefully it's nothing medical, or maybe he just wants to retire. So hopefully it's nothing like super serious. But but they were able to overcome. The Michigan was able to hold off a furious comeback by Indiana, feeding off the crowd. So a nice win for them. Now locally, Southern Illinois beat UIC. In the Missouri Valley. I mean, look, this is sort of one of those games where you got to position yourself, especially with the Missouri Valley Conference tournament just a couple of weeks away. So if you're UIC, you really need to kind of try to get those top 4 seeds to get that first round bye. This isn't going to help, unfortunately.
Yeah, we talked about them having a couple bad losses in the last couple of weeks, and we talked about the top 2 teams in that conference with Drake and Bradley having a big year. Southern Illinois is starting to come on too, as you said, and they had that big win at USC last Saturday. So it's getting top heavy in that conference, and USC they got to tighten up here, as you mentioned, going into the last couple of weeks of the regular season.
North Carolina edged out Pittsburgh. They really needed that win to kind of get back on track there. New Mexico, no trouble with Air Force. UCLA, that's Illinois' next opponent for tomorrow. They had no trouble with Penn State. A couple other games here. Wake beats Cal. They're hoping to put together a nice resume. Duquesne, of course, last year's A-10 conference champs. They beat Loyola by 13. That's not a good way to show it if you're Loyola. Illinois State loses to Northern Iowa in a tough one. I saw this game. They had a lead early, but Northern Iowa put together, I think they had like a 13-4 run those last few minutes to hold them off there. Washington beat Northwestern, and another one of their top guys for Northwestern is done for the year. So these are kind of getting a little bit iffy down over there in Evanston with the injuries for Chris Collins' crew.
Yeah, but what you like about that team is that they keep fighting and they keep scrapping and they keep playing hard, and that's the identity of your head coach and Chris Collins. As you mentioned, they missing a couple of key guys. We talked about Barnhart's season-ending foot injury last week. Now they suffer another one, so it's definitely going to be another tough obstacle to overcome. Northwestern wants to get back to the NCAA tournament for a 3rd consecutive year.
Going into yesterday's games, Memphis, they got their revenge against Temple, 90-82. Of course, Temple beat them a few weeks ago in Philadelphia, so PJ Haggerty had 20 points there. Maryland, they got back on track. They beat Rutgers. Villanova held off Xavier. Oklahoma State beat Arizona State, and Nebraska's putting together a nice little tournament resume. They beat Ohio State 79-71.
Yeah, you think that confidence that they're playing with right now is due to the fact they upset Illinois a couple weeks ago? Just saying.
I mean, look, they're playing a little bit. They've been playing a lot better, even on the road. So, look, we know they're tough to beat down there in their arena in Omaha. So, you can kind of we saw what happened there last night. Now, let's get to this week's game. Sid, some big ones here. Now, North Carolina, they face Clemson. They're back in the top 25, I think, for the first time in about a decade. At 6 o'clock on ESPN, talking about Clemson, so that should be a fun one. Baylor and Houston, that should be a good one. I know Baylor, they've suffered a couple of injuries, so their depth's going to be a little bit of a problem. But it'll be simulcast on ESPN and ESPNU. That Baylor-Houston matchup, and Charlotte and Florida Atlantic will be on ESPN2. A little American Athletic Conference action.
All right, tomorrow, Tuesday, the important games are as follows at 6 p.m. on ESPN2. This is for Tuesday. Number 3, Florida will travel to the state of Mississippi to face the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who are ranked 23rd in the country right now. At the same time, on the big ESPN, number 5, Tennessee will travel to Kentucky to take on the Wildcats. Wildcats are ranked number 15th in the country. At 6 p.m. on Peacock, we'll have number 20, Michigan hosting number 7, Purdue. I think this game will determine who's going to be the top dog as far as the regular season title in the Big Ten. So be on the lookout for that one. As you mentioned, the final line night, they play tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Peacock. They'll face UCLA. You mentioned UCLA has been playing well lately. They're 18-6 on the year. Illinois checks in at 16-8. Something has to give here, but LaKeena, even though UCLA will have to travel to Champaign tomorrow night before that potential big storm on Wednesday, do you think the time difference is going to matter to the Bruins? It didn't with USC almost a month ago, playing in the early game on Saturday morning, as they defeated the Illini. Or do you think the time change will affect the Bruins any?
Yeah, they've done this. They did this early in the year, playing at 5 o'clock their time with their body clock. So I'm sure this is in mid-quarter's first rodeo doing this. So I think they should be okay. I don't think time difference will be an issue for the Bruins. So they should be okay. And I know they're going to be gearing up for this game. It's going to be their only meeting with them this year. So we'll see what happens. UIC and Murray State at the same time on ESPN Plus. DePaul, well, they suffered a tough loss on Friday, but they're going to be playing a Shaka Smart Marquette squad that might not be in a very good mood. So be prepared, DePaul fans. That's at 7:30 on the Peacock Network. Alabama and Texas, that's going to be on ESPN at 8. You got Georgia and Texas A&M on SEC Network. You got Indiana and Michigan State on Peacock at 8 o'clock. Kansas will try to get back on track against Colorado at Fog Allen at 8 o'clock on ESPN2. Crane's back in the top 25 for the first time since earlier in the season. They will host UConn, which is now out of the top 25 after losing to St. John's on Friday. That's going to be on CBS Sports Network. USC, and they host Penn State on BTN. Colorado State meets Utah State. That's on FS1 at 10. San Diego State and San Jose State at CBS Sports Network. Pitt Network, you got Oregon hosting Northwestern. Oregon, they suffered another tough loss to Michigan State yesterday, so they're going to try. Well, on Saturday, I should say, they're going to try again. But yeah, they may not be in a very good mood. Oregon will be either. Santa Clara and St. Mary's, the top two teams in the West Coast Conference. They face each other at 10 o'clock on ESPN2 tomorrow.
All right, your schedule for Wednesday looks like this at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on FS1. Number 9, St. John's. Rick Pitino and crew will travel to Villanova to take on the Wildcats. That should be an interesting game in the Big East play. Also, too, on let me see here on ESPN Plus locally on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Southern Illinois will travel to Bradley to take on the Braves in an in-state battle there. This is a big game for Bradley. Can they win a 20th game of the year? We'll see. That's on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Also, too, we'll have University of Cal. They'll travel to the East Coast to take on number 3, Duke. That's at 8 p.m. on Wednesday on the ACC Network. Also, too, at the same time on the SEC Network, we'll have number 21, Missouri, hosting Oklahoma.
Going back to that Cal Duke game, they may not be in a good mood, Cooper Flag and the gang there. So, Cal fans, you better be prepared. Illinois State, they host Drake at 8 o'clock on ESPN Plus. LSU and Arkansas at 8 o'clock on ESPN2. In Wyoming and New Mexico, that's going to be on FS1 at 9 o'clock on Wednesday.
All right, going to Thursday's action in the top 20. In the top 25, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we are loaded here on Thursday in top 25. Actually, we have number 25 Maryland taking a trip to Nebraska to face the Cornhuskers. That's at 7:30 on the Big Ten Network. And my guy Penny Hardaway and the Memphis Tigers, ranked number 14th in the country. They'll travel to South Florida to take on the Bulls. No, not the Chicago Bulls, the South Florida Bulls. They'll be at 8 o'clock p.m. on ESPN2 on Thursday.
Right, you got UCSB at Santa Barbara and UCI. That they're two of the top three teams in the Big West Conference out on the West Coast. That's about ESPNU at 9. Gonzaga, they host San Francisco. San Francisco actually beat Gonzaga earlier this year. Gonzaga will try to get their revenge. It's not gonna be televised, but I'm sure it's gonna be streaming somewhere. So I'm sure you guys will be able to find that match up there in the West Coast Conference. And yeah, that's about it for Thursday on the well, it comes to the big games anyway, and that's your schedule for this week in college hoops.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. Coming up will be our salute to Black History Month for Old School TV Monday. But first, LaKeena has some news in the sports media world. Tell us about it.
Yeah, some interesting. Well, I'll say this about I think some of the numbers we probably won't see the numbers from the Super Bowl 59 until probably perhaps after we get off. But I think that some of the numbers here. Yeah, like I said, the something about Tom Brady. Like I said it earlier in my little mini rant, I guess, on the our says, but it's sort of like just one of those things where like, look, the man actually did good. Like I said, I'll give him a solid B for the coverage. Like he was great with Jalen Hurts, in his TFG player of the Super Bowl, and I thought Kevin Burkhardt's one of the best play-by-play guys. So I think I would love to see these people try to, bless you. I'd see some folks try to do it, especially a blowout too. Look, it's hard to try to do it. I'm sure they thought it was going to be a better game than it was. So I think people need to kind of just sort of get off them on that and just give a little bit of a break here. But what do I know?
Yeah, as I said before, I don't know if I said it in the first hour, but I'll say it here. If you would have told me that Philadelphia was going to blow out Kansas City, I would have told you that what's up. I would ask the question: it was played last. It was going to be a competitive game. It wasn't, so you can't really blame them too much. You want them to tell bad jokes; it would be much worse. So you really caught between a rock and a hard place there.
Yeah, so look, they did what they could. Like I said, I think the mic, the mishaps with the mic, I think that didn't help them either at the post game show. So I think Fox, the overall Fox coverage, if you want to go outside of that, just wasn't very kind of up to snuff. So they'll have a couple more chances to do it. I think they got about like 3 years before the next time the Fox does a Super Bowl. So I think people need to kind of just do all that now. Dick Vitale, I want to give him a shout out too. He called the game down in Clemson. With Clemson as they upset Duke. There was they had a nice standing ovation with him at Little John Coliseum after the during that game. There, he even actually did a little rip about Kansas City, their playoff chances. He said that he has a better chance of winning the sexiest man alive than the Chiefs do coming back into the game. So. A pretty funny little dig there, but look, it was great to see Dickie V back. Hopefully he can stay healthy, and he sounded great. And look, hopefully he can finish out the rest of the season.
Whatever you think about him, whether it's positive or negative, he brings his passion to his job every day. You can feel that and see that throughout his broadcast, and that's why he's been one of the beloved figures in college basketball for all these years. I know he's never done a Final Four because the games are always on CBS, but whenever you tune into a Dick Vitale broadcast, you're going to get energy, you're going to get passion, you're going to get the insight that no one else brings to the game of college basketball. I know there's other great analysts out there. Hopefully we get him on his program. Stephen Bardo, he's one of the best up there as well. I know people don't talk about him as much, but Dick Vitale brings that passion along with Stephen Bardo as well. But as far as Vitale is concerned, it's just that he has that different energy, that different feel that he brings to a telecast that no one else does.
He's one, like I say, he's been doing this for like almost 40 years now, or maybe give or take. So, he's definitely showing you why that he is one of the best out there. And he's still got it. Look, even though, this might, cancer might get him down a little bit, but he's been able to come back and healthy, and hopefully, knock on wood, he stays healthy the rest of the way. And yeah, it's great to have him back on Saturday.
Yeah. Great to see him back. All right, LaKeena, we have a few minutes left before we close it off for Old School TV Monday. Let's get into baseball teams to start a report for training camp. I know the Chicago Cubs and the Los Angeles Dodgers, they start early in a couple of days for their training camp. Of course, they're going to open up the season on March, I believe, 17th in Seoul, South Korea, as they open up the regular season. I don't know why in Major League Baseball is doing this. They play 2 games and then they go back and finish the exhibition schedule. I don't know why they're doing that. Excuse me. It makes no sense. But I want to ask you about Chicago. If you believe the reports that them and Alex Bregman are coming close to an agreement, maybe, but it looks like it's going to come to a standstill. And if the Cubs are going to sign Mr. Bregman, it looks like it may be toward the beginning of spring training, or at least you'll have to wait till March. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I know, you can blame his Bregman's agent Scott Boras for this one, because I think he hammered it again, like I said, late last week, that he wants a 5-6 year deal for his client. And look, I get that. Like, he's coming in, he's just, starting to get into his prime. But especially nowadays, I think some teams are, are cutting back on their spending. So I would think that maybe you might end up having to get like maybe a 4-year deal with a lot of, maybe like a option for a 5th or a 6th year, and with a lot of incentives. So I think that's really going to be, for me, that might be the thing here. I think, look, I mean, the Astros are not going to move on their price. I know some people said I know some people in Toronto say that he might have a chance to sign with them, but I don't know if they're going to want to pay all that money. So I think if you're Bregman, I think the Cubs might be your best bet. Maybe get a 5-year deal with like a lot of incentives, so that maybe it'll be budget friendly for Tom Ricketts and his family. And I know that Jed Hoyer, he's feeling the pressure. If you saw his comments on the opening day of spring training, he knows that this is his lame duck year. So he really needs the Cubs he really needs a big sign like Bregman, and he knows that the Cubs, they really need to do well and win a division, because if not, he's going to be out of here.
Yeah, as we said with our guest Caitlin Sharkey from WGN last week, the Cubs' chances for the NL Central to win the NL Central is very high. I know Cincinnati has a new manager in Terry Francona. Milwaukee still has a good team. They traded Devin Williams, their closer, now the member of the New York Yankees. Pittsburgh has upcoming talent, but we'll see if they can get over that hurdle. They have a young pitcher named Paul Skeens going into his 2nd year. He's been a Cubs killer throughout his rookie season, so we'll see what happens with that. And plus, you have the St. Louis Cardinals trying to make that transition move. But the Cubs, it's almost several players that the Cubs can win this division. As I said before, and I'll say it again, Bregman or with no Alex Bregman, they still need to go out and get another starter. Hopefully, they can do that between now and the start of the season.
Going to be very interesting there, and I'm interested to see like what the White Sox do. I mean, look, the White Sox can't be any worse than they were last year, so I'm hoping that they can kind of get it going here, and maybe you got Will Venables now. Hopefully they can kind of get it. They can not be good, not be bad. Just don't lose like 120 some games, and they'll be fine. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I know some of the odds got Minnesota winning the AL Central. I don't know about that. I mean, we'll see. Cleveland might still be honest. I know they lost a couple of guys, but they may still have something to say about it. I guess Kansas City. I mean, look. I mean, they still got Bobby Witt Jr. and I know they got some other up and coming guys. So let me just see what happens here in that division. Like I said, we'll get into more until we do our division previews. But yeah, I think that Central is going to be interesting. Outside the White Sox, I mean.
It will be interesting. Yeah, it will be interesting. Maybe will the White Sox bring up the rear? Maybe, but I don't think they're going to be as bad. Of course, White Sox are trying to stockpile the starting pitching led by Jonathan Cannon. Noah Schultz, will he start the year with the club? But if not, he'll be up here not too long before he comes up here, and Sean Burke as well. But for the White Sox, you just got to get some players that have a high baseball IQ. They know how to play the game right now. I think Will Venable will make a difference in this ball club. Remember last year they got off to that terrible start. Obviously, Pedro Fall was in over his head, and it set off a barnstorm, which led to his firing right at the All-Star break. So I think Will Venable will bring some stability to that clubhouse. I think you'll get better effort out of people. I know that Andrew Vaughn was down last year. Will he improve? We'll see. Luis Robert Jr., you know that GM Chris Guest wants to trade him, but if Luis Robert Jr. shows what he could do this year like he did in 2023 when he was fully healthy, you will get something for him. So a lot of the interesting things that we have to watch out for the Sox as we kick off 2025.
Spring training is in full. We'll be going in full gear with more teams coming in. By the time we reconvene on Friday, everybody should be in their respective spring training camps, both in Arizona and in Florida. Hopefully, we can have somebody on to talk about it real soon, and should be interesting. A fun baseball season, as usual.
Yep, spring is sprung, LaKeena. I know that football season is over, but you know what that means, that baseball's not too far around the corner, and the folks that's living in on the East Coast and in the Midwest like we are, we're still less than hopefully a month and a half away for experiencing some decent weather. Even though I am enjoying this mild winter, I know we're supposed to get not too much, but a few inches of snow potentially on Wednesday, but I'm enjoying this mild winter so far. But once you hear the crack of the bat and looking at players playing on the diamonds, whether it's in Arizona or Florida for spring training, warm weather is not too far around the corner. Spring is not too far around either.
Yeah, should be interesting. Definitely, and yeah. Oh, I guess we were due for the snow. I guess so. We'll see if hopefully not.
At least it's not 2011 snow. I'll say that. Oh,
right,
that was
yeah.
terrible.
Right, yeah. So exactly. So we'll see what happens there. Listen to Second City Sports on Sports with guy LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Okay, Sid. Okay, it's that time for Old School TV Monday as we continue our salute all month long to Black sitcoms. Like I said, some we showcased a show that you guys probably remember in The Parenthood. They aired on WB. Well, we're going to be showcasing a show that you probably may or may not remember. Sid, tell us about it.
Remember Saturday nights on SNCC around 7:30 p.m. Chicago time. This show came on and made a big impact, but it was only on the air for one season, and that's My Brother and Me. That's right. It was an American sitcom that originally aired on Nickelodeon, created by Olunga Adele and Calvin Brown Jr., and it was executive produced by Michael Warren and Dee LaDuke, who previously created Family Matters and Step by Step. It premiered on October 15, 1994, replacing the adventures of Pete and Pete on SNCC at once, and it ended on January 15, 1995, with a total of 13 episodes over the course of one season. In production on the series was wrapped in August of 1994. The plot of the series was about the Parkers, a middle-class family living on the west side of Charlotte, North Carolina, who experienced the highs and lows of everyday life. Jennifer and Roger Parker had their two sons, Alfie and Dee Dee. Alfie is the cooler older brother, and Dee Dee was the younger brother who always followed Alfie around. The family also has a smarter older daughter named Melanie. Another main character of the show is Alfie's best friend, Milton Gould Berry. He was very good, by the way. Recurring characters who are friends with the Dee Dee are Harry, and who was the only white cast member, and Donnell. Melanie's best friend was Dion, who was Donnell's older sister.
Yeah, it was a really great concept. If you saw the promos for it at that time, and they really hyped the series. And you know that whenever Nickelodeon hypes this type of series, they really believe in it. And it only aired for 13 episodes, and which is unfortunate because I thought this show had potential to be probably one of the top. I believe it was one of the top rated shows on Nickelodeon, and it's unfortunate. Yeah, it was unfortunate that I guess apparently if you believe some of the rumors, but I guess IMDb I think confirmed it because I saw it years ago that the producers and the creators just couldn't get on the same page. They had different ideas. I know Nickelodeon tried to step in and try to kind of mediate, and it still didn't work. So Nickelodeon, unfortunately, they pulled the plug, and which is it's just sad because I think the potential was there for it to be a really solid show. Goo Punch. That's still a bop. A friend of mine, she had posted on her Twitter X account a couple months ago, and it was still the funniest, probably still one of the funniest ones. They talked about first crushes and dances, and like I said, they didn't really beat you over the head with a lot of the stuff. What they did do, like quote unquote social, they really went too much into it, but they they did kind of, like kept it light and funny, and and you learned something. So I thought it was a really, really solid show that should have lasted longer.
Yeah, it kept up with pop culture, black pop culture in particular. They knew their audience, and so and the parents, they really played in the background, but they weren't they weren't disrespectful or disrespected on that show either. It was times in that series that those kids really needed their parents. So it was a kind of healthy, respectable line there. And the show also featured two future superstars in Amanda Seales and Kim Wigley, who played Miss Pigney, the school lunch lady. She was hilarious, and then you saw her early rise in Hollywood from that scene. And also featured two guest stars on the show, both former NBA players, and Dennis Scott and Kendall Gill.
Yes, they did. I remember. I forgot which episode. That was, but the Open Man. I think that was the 5th episode when, of course, when they tried out for the basketball team, and it was. They filmed in Orlando, so of course, both guys were playing for the Magic at the time, so it made sense for them to appear on the show. And I think, like you said, Sid, about the parents. I mean, like you said, they were like super strict, but they didn't let the kids get away with murder either. So that's a nice little delicate balance there. And like I said, it's 13 episodes. I thought I saw it on YouTube. I think someone took those episodes down. So
it's only 1 to 2 episodes on YouTube.
Yeah, so it's not streaming anywhere, unfortunately. I think it is on Prime. I think on Amazon Prime, which I think you gotta pay for it, all 13 episodes. But yeah, I mean, look, Amanda Seales, of course, she played Dion. Of course, I got my little brothers, but I won't go into a tangent about her. But I won't go on a little bit of a tangent. But look, I mean, unfortunately, like some of them have done okay. I know the guy that played Alfie. I know he's a producer now and does a lot of voiceover work. The last few years, I know the guy that played Dee Dee, he went to Morehouse. I think he's a big exec somewhere in Atlanta. I know the guy that played Goo, I believe he's on the comedy circuit. I saw him a lot on the comedy circuit down in Southern California. He moved there. I know Jim R. Coble, who played Roger. He has done a lot of episodic stuff and voiceover work. Sadly, Karen Fraction, I know she passed away years ago from cancer. So unfortunate there, but I don't know what happened with Ms. Melanie. I think she kind of just disappeared after the show ended, unfortunately. But I really feel like the potential is there for a show to be really good. But like I said, it's unfortunate that the producers and the writers couldn't get on the same page, or the creators couldn't get on the same page. It is just unfortunate there.
Yeah, and it was Nickelodeon's first all-black show. I know some people want to say, "Well, it was Kenan and Kel or All There." Remember both those shows, but mostly All There, which we'll salute down the line on this program. It was a multiracial cast as well, talking about all that. But this was Nickelodeon's first all-black cast, and like you said, it had the potential to be great. They didn't mess with the storylines too much. It was fun, it was light, but like you said, they didn't beat you over the head with it, and then it got pulled. And it was really unfortunate. But I want to give a shout out to this YouTube creator. I don't know if you saw this, LaKeena. His name is Tom Fuller. He did like a 20-minute video on the recap of the series, and for those of you that haven't seen it, check it out. He did a hell of a job recapping their series. Could that work in today's climate? You would think so, but there's a lot of things that television has changed over the years. So I don't know if it will work on a network TV, maybe on an online streaming service exclusively. Maybe it'll work there because we have so many options now. But one fun fact about the show before we close out: in 1996 and 1997, it was nominated for NAACP Image Award for Best Outstanding Youth or Children's Series / Special.
Nice. So. So like I said, I mean, if you guys haven't forgotten about it, like I said, I think a couple episodes are on YouTube. It's on Prime. I have seen that. So he does a really great job of doing a lot of the black sitcoms. So he does a really good job. So make sure you guys check out his
Tom Fuller,
Tom Fuller, make sure you check out his YouTube channel. So, but like I said, a great show that ended way too soon, and it's unfortunate that a lot of the behind the scenes infighting, unfortunately, and it could have potentially a great show. So but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, so for week number 2 of Black History Month, we salute the Nickelodeon teen sitcom My Brother and Me. LaKeena, closes out.
You follow McGee on the Twitter, executes again at IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you make sure you tune into the show. Well, we also want you guys to tune in the show every Monday or Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Time. But we especially want you guys to tune in at 1 o'clock on Friday, since with the NBA All-Star weekend coming up, we're gonna have our annual mid-season wrap up. Well, I guess wrapping up the first half. You'll go into the second half. We're gonna have a really great panel of knowledgeable guys and gals, tell us about the NBA season. We'll keep the Bulls talk to a minimum for their sake, but it should be interesting second half coming up. But make sure you guys check us out. check it out. Our mid-season NBA roundtable coming up at 1 o'clock on Friday. Who's going to be on the panel? Well, you got to tune in to find out. We're not going to tell you now. What fun is that?
Surprise, surprise, surprise. And we will provide.
All right, folks. So guys, be careful out there. Of course, if I know it's good. Most of snow in parts of the country coming up. So just be careful out there. Be good to each other. Enjoy the basketball. I know there's gonna be some stuff coming up with football, so we'll get you guys updated on that and so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown. This is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. We'll see you guys Friday.
Holla.